week's episode of Assassination Classroom, Koro Sensei continues to be an impossible kill for the students of Class 3E, and we also get to see that Koro Sensei continues to be an outstanding teacher. This week's episode, again, just like the first, was a lot of fun. I like that we were formally introduced to another new student this week by the name of Sugino, who apparently is an expert baseball player with aspirations to be a badass pitcher. And the episode actually opens up with him trying to assassinate Koro Sensei with a baseball, which is studded with those anti-Koro Sensei BBs, and despite his best efforts, he throws the ball, it completely misses. Koro Sensei even has time to go over to the shed, adjust some of the signs, come back, grab a baseball glove, and even grab that thing before it even has a chance to hit him. He's that fast. The opening scene is just a quick reminder to remind you that, again, Koro Sensei is freaking unstoppable. He's a destructive octopus of death. Yet, at the same time, he's one of the most heartwarming teachers that I have ever seen. He really wants to get through to these kids and really teach them something. And what I think I loved most about this episode, aside from the fact that it did introduce the character of Sugino, is that we actually got to see what the other students of this academy are like. Because everybody at 3E is discriminated against and segregated, and they're up in the mountains, and everybody else is at this clean, pristine school. All of the students who are at the newer, more modern, cleaner facility are constantly stressed. They don't look like they're enjoying themselves at all. And frankly, it just makes school look like a chore. School should be an event in life where you learn a lot about yourself and a lot about the world. And that's really what's going on at Class 3E. Koro Sensei is giving these students the ultimate class experience by basically working with all of them on a one-on-one basis. Whether that means strangling them with his weird tentacles to find out how they're good at pitching, or it just means flying to New York to actually learn how to play baseball better. And that scene where he flies to New York is really strange, and it's one that I'm going to kind of sweep under the rug and look the other way, because only the government and the students and all those people involved are supposed to know about Koro Sensei. But he went to New York, went to a baseball game, and had his tentacles explode from the mound so that he could get the autograph of this pitcher, Arita. And I don't know how anybody didn't notice any of this, but there is the small possibility that he just moved really fast, but apparently it made the papers, so I'm just gonna look the other way on that one. And there's also a few other attempts from the students to try and kill him this week. There's a scene where they all try to jump on top of him when he's making shaved ice with their weird killing him knives, and it doesn't work at all. He even replaces it with flowers, and this actually pisses them off because he just destroyed the class flower garden, so he's going to have to try and help them replant it. And this scene is just ridiculous. It makes no sense, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that he's gonna destroy Earth anyway. Why is he even wasting his time planting flowers? Even one of the students brought that up, and he even tries to give them a handicap by trying to make them feel better to try and kill him when he wraps himself up and ties himself up and hangs himself from a tree, and they're constantly like trying to stab him like a giant octopus pinata, but it still doesn't work. And eventually his weight brings the branch down, and he just rolls around on the ground freaking out as he's about to be killed and shot by all of his lovable students, but he makes a quick escape and explodes into the sky. This is a great scene because we also get to see how he's developing his relationship with his students. The students are getting closer to killing him, and this is also when Karasuma finally arrives again to Class 3E, because he is now going to be their PE teacher. This way he can keep closer tabs on Koro Sensei and see if he can get any clues on how to kill this guy so that they can save the Earth. But I think one of the coolest things about this week's episode is the little tease at the end of this week's episode for the newest student of Class E, who apparently has been on suspension, and this guy's creepy as shit. He's excited over the prospect of getting ready to kill a teacher, and he seems like he's going to fit right in at Assassination Classroom. And they don't give his name quite yet, but basically he's just this red-haired, yellow-eyed student who you can actually see much clearer in the intro of the show, which is something of a spoiler. But I don't know anything about this guy, but I just cannot wait to see how he is going to interact with Koro Sensei, because he seems a lot more serious than the other characters that we've actually seen in the series. And there's so many more to introduce. They all have interesting designs, I'm sure they all have interesting backstories, and they focused a little bit on Sugino this week, and I think that would be really cool if how in every episode they introduce a new student, a new problem, something about their backstory, and again, it just shows that Koro Sensei is an amazing teacher. So what's the rundown? On this week's episode of Assassination Classroom, already this is one of my favorite shows of the year. I just love the ridiculous premise. Once you can get past that, you can start having a lot of fun. I just love the difference between the two schools in this week's episode. I loved how they demonstrated that. You can really see, like, the difference in the attitudes of the students and what their school life is like, and I just think there's something really interesting and something that needs to be said about that. I wonder how often we're actually going to get back to the other school and maybe see some of the other students. I don't know if that's going to be a thing. We're probably just going to focus on Class 3E. Otherwise, this week's episode was good because there was a good amount of action scenes, a lot of assassination attempts, some of which were very creative, especially with the baseball studded with the anti-Koro Sensei BBs. That was really cool. And when they were all trying to jump in when he was trying to make his shaved ice, which was from the North Pole, because, you know, he could pretty much go anywhere. I think one of the students mentioned that it's annoying that he can pretty much go anywhere like it's a freaking corner store. But again, that's just something that's very funny about the show. But again, something that I think is going to be a great dynamic about the show is the fact that they're trying to prevent the destruction of Earth, and yet at the same time, they're building this immensely strong relationship with this teacher who legitimately cares about their problems, even though he claims it's simply because of a promise he made. However, I still think there's a lot more to the character of Koro Sensei, and there's a lot of creepiness this week when you just see him eating random things. Like, there's a scene where he eats a pen and a big coconut without any care of even trying to, like, carve it or anything. It's very strange, and it pretty much shows that he can pretty much do whatever he wants to do. And that's just something that's very funny about him. And yet, he still wants to turn these students into the most model students that they can be. So this week's episode was great. New characters, lots of action, lots of funny bits, and the promise of 2 new characters with Karasuma returning and this weird, mysterious, evil, red-haired kid who wants to kill a teacher. It's freaky, it's funny, it's ridiculous, it's Assassination Classroom, and this week's episode is a 4 out of 5 from me. Really high-quality episode. I cannot wait to see where the rest of this series is going. Thank you guys for watching my review. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. And before you guys leave, please tell me what you thought about this week's episode of Assassination Classroom. What did you think of the new characters who were introduced? What's up with that weird, creepy, red-haired kid? And do you have any theories about Koro Sensei and his whole backstory? Please tell me in the comments section below. Remember, if you guys have not subscribed to our channel, you can do that by clicking on the channel icon right up here. It's really easy. You guys can also follow us on Facebook and on Twitter.